Well, this leads tonight. All eyes are in Cape Town ahead of tomorrow's State of the Nation address by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Well, as preparations continue this evening, Full View anchor Bongiwe Zwane has been speaking to different people who are involved in preparations for this national event. Among them is Deputy Government Spokesperson William Baloyi.
We're coming to you live from the Cape Town City Hall. This is as the preparations of the State of the Nation are well underway. We are right here. As you can see, the band is in preparation. Earlier on, we did get a briefing by the National Assembly Speaker, Togo Didiza, talking about the fact that it's all systems go. But the significance of this day is not just about the preparations of the State of the Nation address. This is where 36 years ago, on this day, Nelson Mandela walked out of the Victor Verster prison a free man after spending years on Robben Island and giving his address just hours after his release, where he was greeting his supporters with a message of freedom, encouragement, but at the same time, he then placed his entire, the remaining years of his life in the hands of the people. Now, we do know that tomorrow, as the State of the Nation address is expected to get underway in the afternoon, the preparations will then start even tonight, but also from the morning, there will be different, items that are going to be on the agenda. Around 490 MPs are going to be in attendance. There's dignitaries that have also been invited as well to be part of this. Remember, former presidents as well are also invited. And from the speaker's briefing a little earlier on today, we got a glimpse of understanding that, in fact, the former president, Kgalema Motlanthe, has confirmed his attendance. They did receive an apology from the former president, Thabo Mbeki, an indication that former President Jacob Zuma will be in attendance. At the same time, we do understand that currently, as they say, the budget is at around just over 7 million rand. You'll remember that in the previous State of the Nation address, the budget was at around 15 million, and Parliament saying that it has in fact spent around 12 million of that. But what brought the budget significantly down, when you look at what Parliament has had to say, is the fact that they're now not hiring the dome for the guests. In fact, the guests are going to be at a marquee that is not very far from where the broadcasting stations are going to be. So quite a lot is expected tomorrow, especially as the president is coming to account to the nation to say, where are things now as far as a number of the promises that would have been made by this particular administration are concerned? And someone who speaks for the government, the Deputy Government Spokesperson, that is William Baloyi, is joining us now to talk to us about the preparations ahead of the State of the Nation address tomorrow. The Speaker said earlier on, everything seems to be according to plan. Is it?
Thank you very much for having us. Firstly, this is very historic. The SONA that is going to be delivered by the President is very historic, because today we are just a day after 36 years of the release of the very first democratically elected President of this country, President Rolihlahla Mandela. And no any other person than the current President, President Ramaphosa, who was part of the entourage that assisted that. So it's quite important, and that's something that as a nation we need to reflect on, to say, where do we come from? But as we have indicated, the State of the Nation address is a platform that the President firstly account to the nation, secondly also touches on the deliverables that were set for the nation, but also he set the tone for the year that we are going to. So it's quite important. And as you have indicated that the Speaker also touched on the readiness. Up to thus far, it's all systems go. The security cluster, very clear in terms of making sure that everything is safe. But what is important is what the President will be saying to the nation as a feedback of what we said last year as the leader of government.
And we speak about what the president is going to say. It's the second time that he now has to speak under a government of national unity. Do all the other political parties that are represented in that government, do they make contributions to the State of the Nation address?
The State of the Nation address, it's a quite involved statement. It's not a statement that the president just reads. It's an involved process that involved members of the GNU, their contribution, academics, researchers, but also community-based organizations that we have consulted. So it's quite an involved process. So everyone made an input into that. Hence, the president will be then giving that consolidated input to the nation. Yeah.
Now, when we look at this year, it was quite interesting to hear from the speaker earlier on to say that the budget has been cut down significantly, and we are now going to be seeing guests actually not very far from where we are instead of the dome. What informed some of these cuts?
Actually, as a state and government, there are priorities. And as the president did indicate before, that our focus will be on service delivery. And yes, as a democracy, that is a nectar that attracts everyone in the continent. They look south. We have an increase in terms of the population. That puts a strain on the resources, that puts a strain on infrastructure. Therefore, we always prioritize to say then where do we put more money? And more money is put on service delivery challenges. To give an example, today we saw government starting from the cabinet minister, the province, and also local government going where it itches most at service delivery level on the issue of water. And we gave it the best attention, but also to intervene in terms of how do we make sure that such problems are resolved. So that's what also informs the allocation of resources. On the 25th, Minister of Finance, Minister Godongwana, will also be putting meat in terms of resources to what the president will outline tomorrow.
One would say, though, that when you look at the issue of water, it's been going on for quite some time. And you know, residents of different places could even say that the minister chooses to go now because it's the State of the Nation address tomorrow. And that is why she does this, so that the president may have something positive to respond to. But in actual fact, people have been struggling. And she's not been anywhere to help people, to allay some of the concerns that people had.
I think as government, we are the first to admit the challenges that come with all these issues that I've put, to say we have an increasing population, we have a strain that is put on the infrastructure and so forth. So obviously those will emanate into what we say. But however, it's not true that nothing has not been done. We know that through utilities like Joburg Water, Rand Water, and also the ministry as the oversight, they have been tackling issues of water, not only in Johannesburg, in other areas. But however, what is happening is that the problems then increase with other ramifications that are there, and we are attending to them. So yes, it might have happened that it coincides with the State of the Nation address, but we have been addressing them as part of service delivery. It's not long that we're having the G20, a successful G20. We were not dealing with that issue of water. So it's just coincidental that is there. But the good thing is that we have a listening government. You have a government that is closer to the people. It goes right where the people are and then interacts, see for itself how to resolve that thing.
But will they be going to the people as well, especially as far as the issue of, you know, I think of Johannesburg, for example. There were concerns that were being raised that we're seeing a cleaner city because the G20 summit is coming. And again, we're now finding ourselves actually back with a city that is lackluster. We're seeing a lot of dirt on the streets. So ultimately, the people are still frustrated by what is going on.
You can't falter the people when they compare that yesterday we were at this level, why it appears now the focus is not on us. You can't falter them. However, what is good is that they acknowledge that at some point in time we were at this stage. Why don't you keep that state? That's what they are saying. And that is what a democratic state does. You listen to the people and you intervene. And that's what we are doing.
As a final one then, when one looks at the State of the Nation address, there's a myriad of promises that we get to see, the president speaks about, and yet at times we don't see the deliverables. We don't see a lot of movement on that front as well. And some people begin to look at this and say, what's the point?
I think That's why we spoke about accountability. We say this is what we said, this is how much we could do, and we still have to do more. Like, for example, no one could foretell that we are going to have a problem of floods. We had serious floods, then you shift the resources to attend the immediate problems, then it affects other priorities that you have put. But you come back to the nation to say we are doing this, and then up to thus far with the challenges that this government is having, I can tell you that we have done the best to address them, and we continue to address, because service delivery is a key point and principle of this government.
All right, thank you so much for your time. That was William Baloyi, Deputy Government Spokesperson, speaking to us about the preparations ahead of SONA tomorrow. What does the State of the Nation address then mean for South Africans? In fact, I'm going to step out of shot, right? I'm going to step out of shot and show you the parades as they're happening. In fact, let's take in some of this net sound. And as we continue then to take in some of the preparations here ahead of the State of the Nation address tomorrow, there is, of course, a lot that happens during that time, and including what we've come to know as a fly past, which I'm told is actually not a fly past. And we'll talk about what exactly do we call it in just a moment. And with us is Lieutenant Colonel Vanessa Starke, Deputy Commander, Air Force Base, Langebaan. Thank you so much for your time.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And when one sees the processions, it's something that is a sight to behold. We don't get used to it. And I suppose it speaks about just how a lot of us are interested in actually what all of you do.
Yes, thank you so much for taking the time to come and be here with us and enjoy us displaying our precision, our discipline, and all of our hard work.
And it certainly is. And there's one moment that we all, if you don't catch it fast enough, it goes by so quickly. And it's what we've come to call the fly past, which I'm told is not. What is it exactly?
So when you have helicopters overflying the Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Force with flags underneath them, that is the salute flight. And that is something that we've come to enjoy over the years. This year, we are not anticipating the helicopters. This year, it is in fact going to be a fly past, and it is going to be a treat. It's going to be our Hawk lead-in fighter aircraft.
Tell us a bit more about the aircraft that is going to be taking place there. They're going to be taking part, in fact, in that.
Yeah. All right, so it's a British airspace system. It's the BAE system Hawk Mark 120. The South Africans have been flying it. We use it as a trainer. So when our student pilots complete their training on the PC-7 Mark II at Air Force Base Langebaan flying at Central Flying School, we then use the Hawk lead-in fighter trainer to prepare them for the advanced combat platform, which is the Gripen.
And so when you look at the work that goes into all of the preparations, right? Someone is wondering, is it something that takes hours to prepare for, days, or is it just an hour? Because others think that they're such pros at what they do.
Yeah, that's such a great question. There is a lot of preparation that goes on behind the scenes. As soon as our aircrew members are given the assignment, they will definitely look at it from a perspective of understanding the medium. What is the airspace that they're going to be operating in? What is the planned weather forecast? They want to ensure, are there any obstacles, anything that could affect the safety of the flight? So there's definitely a lot of planning that goes into it. They'll calculate what ground speed they want to maintain over the podium, and with that they'll calculate where they're going to hold while they wait for their turn to come and fly in. So there's definitely a lot of planning behind the scenes before they actually come and fly.
So all of that, the holding and the speed is an agreement.
Oh, definitely. We make sure that there's nothing left to chance. We want to come out here prepared, ready for what lies ahead.
It's okay. Rather you guys than me, because I don't even know, probably excitement will get the better of me and, just want to go as soon as possible. But let's speak about the significance of it, right? Because it doesn't just happen for anyone. It's a moment that is quite significant as part of the proceedings.
Yes. This is a very special moment because we are going to have a variety of salutes, respect being given to the Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Force. You're going to be having the National Ceremonial Guard busy saluting him. You're going to have the 21-gun salute that is simultaneously happening while the national anthem is being played, and then the Air Force comes over and just steals the show by performing that salute to the Commander-in-Chief.
And it must be a moment of pride for all of you to be able to do this, because you are not only honoring him, but also you're showing South Africans just a little glimpse of what you all do and what you're all about.
Yes. No, I definitely agree with you. I grew up looking at the tall, big walls around military bases, and I always wondered what's going on behind there. And this is just an opportunity for everybody to just catch a glimpse of what we're up to.
We spoke about the weather a little earlier on. Does it ever impact on the work that you do? Because at times we see that the Cape Town weather, I always describe it as 5-in-1 at times. So does that actually impact, and you find yourselves maybe deciding not to go with a particular aircraft or the other?
Yeah. We'll be interested in the visibility and the cloud base. Obviously, we have a height that we have to maintain to keep everybody on the ground safe, as well as keeping our aircraft clear of any obstacles. So if we reach a point where we cannot safely navigate, that would then be a go, no-go decision. And obviously, if you're flying a fast jet at 660 kilometers an hour versus a helicopter, there'll be different decision-making.
And what kind of a pilot would have to be part of that?
Right, so once we qualify and get our wings, we all get opportunity to either go to the helicopter line or the transport line or to fly the fighter aircraft. And then from there, you'll continue in that line and move on to the more advanced aircraft. So the team that are going to be flying today, they completed their basic flying training at Central Flying School, and then they're now busy with their Hawk training so that they can then move on to fly the Griffins.
Are you going to be there?
I'm a transport pilot.
There we go. Tell us your role then for the day, because I know there's many different facets, as you've said, of the work that all of you are going to be doing.
Yeah. So I'm assisting today just to help explain to everybody on the ground what's going on up in the air, give a little bit of information about the aircrew members, the aircraft, just so that everybody can have that information to enjoy the show.
And now I do. Thank you. Thank you so much for talking to us, Colonel.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Now, it seems that you know a little bit more, right, about the fly past tomorrow. That is Lieutenant Colonel Vanessa Stark, Deputy Commander at the Air Force Base Langebaan. But it's not only about the work of the SANDF here. It's not only about the work of the military. There's also a lot of politics that we see as far as the State of the Nation address is concerned, because these are different political parties that are hoping to listen to the president with an understanding and an ear of accountability as to, throw forward to the debate. What questions do they ask? What springs up for them? What are some of the concerns as far as the promises that would have been made in the past are concerned? And someone who has been tracking the developments in that part of the world is Samgele Masego, our colleague, SABC News politics reporter. Sam, let's firstly start with, before we get into the conversation you had with John Steenhuisen, let's speak about the politics of SONA, because it's not only about what we're seeing behind us.
It's definitely not only about what we are seeing now. It's also about the negotiations of political parties now in a government of national unity. What is the interest of the DA? What is the interest of the Patriotic Alliance? What is the interest of the Good Party? What is the interest of other political formations such as the Inkatha Freedom Party, who form part of this government of national unity that is being led by the African National Congress and that features President Cyril Ramaphosa as its president, particularly with the DA's key focus on the economy. You've got issues of the local government elections coming up, fixing of local government, servicing of people of basic necessities such as the basic commodity of life, which is water, which is an issue the city of Johannesburg is currently grappling with. The performance of the economy, the broadening up and opening up of public institutions, particularly your state-owned companies, for public sector partnerships to come in and have that collaboration with government, particularly in companies such as Transnet. You've seen the revival of companies such as African Airways, SAA, which has had a profit this time around, going to AXA and other forms of these state entities, which are the economic drivers that are meant to play a developmental role within society.
And Sam, you speak about the different political parties within the government of national unity. There's a lot of focus on that right now because you've got an FF Plus that's not happy with the renaming of Rafrenet. They've not been happy with a number of issues as well. You've got a Democratic Alliance that's going through its own turbulences of a leader that's not standing for re-election. Can we see the GNU change?
We want to see the GNU change at this point in time. But most of these parties, particularly the two biggest parties in the government of national unity, are self-mutilating unprovoked in a corner, said one political analyst in the form of Professor Soma Totafigeni. So it's not surprising to see a DA that is self-mutilating in a corner, unprovoked over its leadership contestations. But it all goes back about when Mmusi Maimane was leaving office, when Helen Zille said they will reclaim the Democratic Alliance, and how the DA had marginalized its core base, which is the minority segment of society, the Afrikaner community, which has the buying power as opposed to other demographics or races within the country. So the DA does not want to lose that particular demographic, and they're doing everything in order to reclaim it from going to an AfriForum, which they did reclaim it relatively in the 2024 general election. And this local government is going to be very important for them to reclaim that particular demographic in a municipality such as Tshwane, where they are largely concentrated as in one way or another. So it's going to be very important how the DA plays its politics going forward, but also John Steenhuisen, ever since the DA got into the government of national unity, has been limping from one crisis to another. Many have likened him to a Jacob Zuma of the Democratic Alliance.
And right on that point, what did he say to you about that point, but also about how the DA has actually been faring over time? Because we know they've been trying, as you say, claw back, but it seems it's a struggle.
It is a struggle, and he's saying there was pushback within the DA for them to form part of the government of national unity. It was a strain. He was constantly fighting battles, and the leadership role in the DA is cast a lonely figure. He spoke as if he had no support from previous leaders of the DA, that he was all alone, tried to steer the ship, had no proper guidance, but did his level best. It was a frank and honest discussion from how he is feeling at this point in time. He's saying that he's going to retreat, he's going to go back. If he needs to be a backbencher, he will be a backbencher, and he is not done with politics, and he is going to claw his way back into the leadership, but not saying that he's going to come back as a leader of the DA, but saying he's not done with politics. He's only 49. He still has a long road to play. The future is still bright for him, but for now, he's going to sit back, regroup. Even if he has to be a backbencher, he will do that. He'll support the incoming leader and hopes the DA will not retreat to its cocoon of being a mere opposition party.
So he's staying within the DA?
He's staying within the DA, but doesn't say if the DA decides to veer off track, what will he do?
And it's not only about the Democratic Alliance, right? There's also the ANC in and itself that is having its own internal dynamics that are also at play. And I wonder, how politically is the ANC monitoring and watching this particular State of the Nation address?
The ANC is monitoring and watching the State of the Nation address. They did go to an NEC Lekgotla, they went to a cabinet Lekgotla with other ministers and other leaders of other political formations, and there is a rather interesting build-up, particularly when it comes to infrastructure development within the country. We're going to see Municipal Infrastructure South Africa, MISA, playing a very important role going forward, particularly on municipalities that are unable to spend their budgets, where other agencies may be brought in to come and implement the work of municipalities where they are failing. Those powers taken from them, taken to COGTA. COGTA finds an entity of government, particularly around housing, infrastructure development, building roads, building bridges across the country, taking that responsibility away from municipalities, particularly noting that there is about 395 million rands that needs to be spent around infrastructure, can even go up to billions that needs to be spent around infrastructure for municipalities that are largely failing and unable to spend their budgets in the Eastern Cape, in Gauteng, in the Northwest Province. You know, the Northwest is the worst culprit that has had to return billions of rands into the fiscus, noting that they've been unable to spend it at a municipal level due to poor infrastructure, poor capacity of municipal officials, and unable to spend those millions of rands that need to be spent before the end of this financial year. That is going to be a rather interesting point to look out in the speech of the President in the State of the Nation address, and particularly entities such as COGTA in the Eastern Cape that are going to be important in order to be spending those particular budgets that are unable to be spent by municipalities, unable to be spent by DBSA, that may not have the necessary panels in order to spend those funds. It's going to be one of the sticking points to look out for in the President's address. COGTA and entities around human settlements and around COGTA.
It's going to be an interesting one, and it's not a surprise. It's an election year, local government. That's my colleague there, Samgele Masego, speaking to us about some of the expectations ahead of the State of the Nation address.